Hello, Tashdili everybody. We at the foundation are delighted to say welcome to the 20th session of our weekly virtual teachings by Venerable Geshe Lhakdor. Thank you so much, Geshe Lhakdor. Just this afternoon, I was speaking with Swati Chawla, who is been a regular attendee of our teachings here, and we were delighting really and marveling at your generosity that you've been able to share your time with us, share your presence with us. So thank you so much, Kishla. And thanks also to all of you who have joined us since the very first session on September 25th. So really, thank you so much. And we deeply rejoice in the fact that we showed this willingness, we have this wish to learn and be better for oneself and for others. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kishla. Please help us. Please guide us.
Tashidilek, everybody, wherever you are, whatever is your time. As Nordinla very aptly said, it is amazing to have obtained this precious human life, and we are doubly blessed to be able to meet with this precious teaching of Buddha and teaching of Adisha and so forth. Because as one of the Kadamba masters says, when it comes to doing something negative, it is very easy, just like a big boulder thrown down upon a steep slope of the mountain. It will just roll down with a big thud, no problem at all. So in doing bad things, we are like that. Why? We need to discuss later on. But in terms of doing good things, the same master says, in terms of doing good things, we really look like a tired, heavily loaded donkey taken uphill. A tired, heavily loaded donkey, when you pull their donkey uphill, then the donkey will reluctantly take just one step and then look back, doesn't want to proceed. So we are very much like that. So whether you see from the perspective of the Buddhist teaching, or you see it from the perspective of philosophers and scientists who have examined human nature and human life, they all unanimously say that we have some inborn kind of tendency, you call it negative emotion or whatever you want to call it, so that our tendency quickly goes towards what is visible to the five senses, and we don't pay attention to the needs and demands of the mind. That is one thing. And then secondly, we are surrounded by a host of people who all say, different, they all show you a different direction. Let's come, have a nice cup of tea, let's go for a movie, let's enjoy. There are 100,000 things to do to get distracted. I'm not saying that you should like relinquish everything and become Buddha in one day. That is of course impossible. But I'm simply telling you the tendency, because of our past lives habit and imprints, heavy imprints that we have in our mind. So that we have tendency to run towards what is easy, what is negative, what is not so useful. Then what is useful, what is beneficial to oneself and for others, right? So therefore, it is really, really important to be able to see clearly the importance of changing your perspective by transforming your mind. Transforming your mind is not so much about listening to one particular teaching, but of course, if you follow a teaching like that of the Buddha, then it has a very thorough experiential teaching, time-tested teaching. So that, of course, I would highly, highly recommend. But even otherwise, if you try to cultivate an impartial mind, unbiased mind, and as much as possible, try to see the actual situation in all spheres of your life, in all your activities, then I'm definite that you will find the right path, find the truth. But unfortunately, we have, as I told you, we have this tendency of quickly, agreeing to somebody or agreeing to the majority called democracy. Democracy, even in politics, they say, when it is not run properly by people with knowledge, then it is not called democracy, it is mobocracy. Now on and off, we see that mobocracy. Recently, we saw it some places also. So it's not democracy in the true sense of the term, it's a mobocracy. So we have this kind of mob mentality or fun-loving kind of mentality or short-sighted mentality. So therefore, if we really, I need to repeat this several times, if we really need long-lasting peace and happiness, as we are supposed to have agreed right in the beginning, right? I hope you have not forgotten that. That is my almost like key word, that I want happiness, that I want peace, that I want long-lasting peace and happiness, long-lasting peace and happiness. We need to repeat this because the way we live our life doesn't at all look like we want long-lasting peace and happiness. These days, people repeatedly ask this question, what should be the, the aftermath of the COVID-19 situation, or what should we, how should we behave when we return to some kind of normalcy? Then again, the question is same, you see. Whether you call it normalcy, whatever, you're basically talking about the same stupid way of life without any change, without learning anything from this COVID-19. You might think about doing something better, just for a few days, right? Then after that, you relapse. This is the exact word, relapse back into the same old die-hard habit. So therefore, we need to really make concerted effort to bring about some kind of reliable goodness, happiness, at least in this life, for many people, especially for those people, who really have no material means and who also don't have that intellectual capacity to think for themselves. So we need to come up with this two-pronged kind of strategy. One, how we can financially, materially, as much as possible, help those who are in dire need of, their basic necessities, who are really dying without having those basic facilities and necessities, place to stay, clothes to wear, things like that. So they are not just talking. We should really, as much as possible, try to help, extend our helping hand. Then second is, there are many people who are materially quite well off, but mentally, of course, majority of us like that, mentally are very poor. So we are suffering from mental poverty. So for those people, because basically they have certain material facilities and also certain kind of academic education. So for these people, counseling, giving the right education, right insight. So this kind of teaching is very useful for them, very useful for them. And I'm delighted to say already I'm receiving letters from different people, not only in this teaching, but in other teachings. Many people have responded by saying that the teaching really greatly benefited them. And it benefited them not because Geshe Lhakdor is somebody special or experienced and he has a lot of things to say. No. There is a line, I don't know how to translate this in this lamrim of heap of examples, as I mentioned earlier, where there is a Tibetan word called apekedu, kajim lung. There's a Tibetan word called apekedu, meaning speaking in the voice of the Father. So I'm speaking in the voice of the Father. The Fathers are the Buddha and Adisha and the great teachers, So now this speaking in the voice of the Father means, so there was one very young child who had to remain alone in his own house. So then he got a little bit scared, fearing that some thieves and others might come. So he tried to change his voice, and he acted as if he is the father, and then said, "My son, don't go there. The dog will bite you." So that itself, helped him to calm his mind. So similarly, I'm just repeating. So therefore, whatever benefit that you got clearly tells two things. One, that these teachings have that perennial, we call it perennial philosophy, time-tested teaching. Because Buddha's teaching talks about law of nature. And it is not our knowing the law of nature we are suffering, right? So therefore, it cannot be wrong at any time. The relevance of Buddhism, the basic teaching of Buddha will be there forever. Until and unless we have aging, we have sickness, we have death, we have in fighting, we have all the negative emotions. So long as we have this, weaknesses, the Buddha's teaching, there's no question about it is, benefit. It is 100% sure. So the teaching is good. There are many of you who are right now listening to the teaching, and including myself who is trying to explain this. We should repeatedly, express joy and be delightful that we are at least able to spend an hour and so in a week, which is really not much. So I mean, I actually like this teaching because I give just 1 hour or so teaching in a week. And then the organizers, they counted saying that Geshe Lhakdor, thank you so much. You've been teaching this since September or something, as if I have been teaching continuously for many, many months every day. so, so anyway, what I'm saying is really, it's important for oneself when you do good things, it is important to recognize that you are doing good things and be happy about that. That is called rejoicing. In the 7 limb Buddhist practice, there is one of the practices called rejoicing. So that means when you've done something, then that is really the time to enjoy. Now I've done this, I've did this meditation, I practice. Now I can relax a little bit, have a nice cup of tea, go for a short walk. Even if you want to dance a little bit, of course you can dance now. Rejoicing. I take it in that way. But otherwise, normally, for stupid things, we just spend hours and hours, for doing many, many not so useful things. Of course, it is your choice, but we have to weigh the pros and cons, which one you really want. You see, so doing Dharma practice is not that easy. So we need to, at least, especially in the initial stage, we need to make some effort. And having made that effort, when you have started seeing the benefits of it, then even without a teacher or even without somebody asking you to do the practice, you will naturally go into the practice of the teaching. So in the initial stage, you need to really make effort. Not just quickly reading everything, but to read slowly, digest everything, and see how the relevance of it in your life, and the relevance of that teaching in the so-called modern technological scientific age, right? This is important because many people these days, unfortunately, because of ignorance, they think science and technology is the call of the day, and there's nothing else which is important to learn. But I don't have to elaborate on this. Yes, we have reached almost at the zenith of scientific and technological progress, but have we really reduced poverty? Have we reduced disease? And if so, why this COVID-19 pandemic is here? We are facing more and more problem because so long as you have this internal negative emotions like greed and so forth, then that internal greed, etc., is fueled by the external material facilities. The more you will flood the market with these shiny gadgets, the more your internal desire will say, I want this, I want that. As I mentioned last time, Apple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They'll keep on feeding you by saying 13, 14, 15. And stupid as we are, we think, oh, I need to update myself and have the next one, things like that. So that's the problem. We keep as much as possible, even without much money, we try to update everything which is external and never, or hardly attempt to update oneself. That is the problem. That's the problem, right? So therefore, these teachings are really precious, very important. So we should consider ourselves lucky. And even you spend like 2 hours or 3 hours, we should at least rejoice saying that I made my life meaningful today, right? Right? So therefore, now today's teaching especially is relevant in the sense because this today's, the chapter number 19, the title of this chapter is called Always Working to Benefit Others. Always working to benefit others. This is the chapter. Always working to benefit others. So as usual, the chapter opens with a discussion between Domtamba and Atisha. And Domtamba asks this first question to Atisha by saying that please give me an instruction how to associate with people. It's so easy to understand and so important. And that is what is taught in today's management and things like that, you see. Scores and scores of books have been written about management, right? There are books which is called Managing Yourself, Managing Others. So these are the things that Atisha is saying here. So the question is asked, give us an instruction how to associate with others. This is so pertinent. As I said repeatedly, one of the main problems that we are suffering today is we don't know how to live with others and also don't know how to live alone. You should be good in one of these. If you don't know or don't like to live with others, then you should know how to live alone, just like Milarepa, you see. He was virtually running away from people by saying that I have nothing to give them and they have nothing to get from me and things like that. If we live together, we'll all like pull each other's leg and get drowned in the quagmire of samsara. So he was running like a wounded animal from mountain to mountain, things like that, right? So either we should know how to live with others. Live with others means not just living in a crowded city, a big city like New Delhi, which has like, I don't know, 18, 19, 20 million or something like that, right? So you're all there, crowded, yeah? But that is not called living together. Living together means living in harmony, living with love, living with compassion. And I have personally seen in many big cities that you don't even talk to your next door neighbor, especially in the so-called highly developed countries. And their Dharma practice is the so-called individualism, right? Individualism. And then the so-called privacy, so that nobody should, disturb each other. So you're not even in talking terms. Next door neighbor. I've seen many of them. I'm not exaggerating. It is like that. So that is not called living together, living in harmony. It's good you don't disturb. That's at least good, but that's not living in harmony, right? So living nicely with other people, associating with nicely with other people means that you should have this genuine concern and love towards others. Imagine, you might recall what I said earlier, that imagine in a big city, if everybody has this sense of concern and love towards each other, you can call that a kind of nirvana. This is not a small thing. It's a big, almost unthinkable achievement, you see. Imagine. Or if we are unable to imagine everybody becoming so loving and kind, but at least if you personally develop that loving kindness and compassion, not necessarily 100% kind of genuine loving kindness and compassion, which will take a lot of time, but at least almost like a facsimile or superficial kind of loving kindness, imitation of loving kindness, you do it. This day, what I do, because I'm unable to do any great practice, so what I do is I count the names of people or others who I have benefited a little bit. And when I see that, then I feel happy. At least I was able to help this fellow, that fellow, things like that, right? So that way you develop that joy within yourself, and that will in turn inspire you to continue to doing that, because you are able to now see the benefit of such practice. Because in that process, not only you have helped others, but you get that deep satisfaction. And that is the core of this Indic religion, right? Nalendra tradition or Indic religion, whatever you want to call it, because when we talk about the system of values in the ancient Indian tradition, they basically talk about four things. Four meaning of human life. Char Purush Arth. Char Purush Arth. So Purush Arth means in this life, you accumulate wealth or material facilities to get some kind of happiness and satisfaction in this life. That's also necessary. But that should not be the end of the story, because that material facility will provide you some kind of physical satisfaction, but not necessarily mental satisfaction, right? So therefore, in order to achieve that total liberation, you should practice Dharma. So these four are called the Purush Arth, the meaning of the human life, right? So therefore, this question, how to associate with others, is a very, very important point. And so therefore, you should constantly judge with what kind of person you are associating, what kind of friendship you are maintaining with others, because you will be easily pulled into the negative direction if you associate with wrong people. Remember, negative friends, wrong people will not come to you with, horrible red eyes and bearing fangs and wearing loose, horrible black clothes, things like that. No, they'll come to you as ordinary friends and very nice. Let's go for a movie. Let's have fun. I look after all the expenses. Don't worry. I mean, that's okay to some extent, but imagine if you are in this way gradually, pulled into a direction where you become a drug addict. You see? And there are 100,000 areas where you can get addicted. Imagine. And when you get addicted, your brain stops functioning. And I learned this from a very renowned scientist. The brain, in its natural capacity, has the power to discriminate between what is right and what is wrong. If you leave the brain in its natural state, it will tell you to a great extent what is good for you, what is not good for you. So brain has that capacity, just as we have the immune system. So we have this natural kind of stamina or capacity to try to do the best thing for yourself, right? So the brain has that capacity. For example, if you want to test it, you just take one puff of smoke, one puff of cigarette, take one puff. Those of who you never did that, just test it. You will immediately cough and cough loudly. Why? Because the brain is saying, this is not good for you. That's why we sneeze, cough, when there's a lot of dust and things like that. So the brain is telling you, be careful, it's not good for you. Now, stupid as we are, we don't listen to the brain and then take second puff. Again, you might cough. Still, you force yourself, take third puff, fourth puff, keep on forcing yourself, smoking. Then after a while, the brain will give up. And it almost looks like the brain then will tell you that, okay, if you want to commit suicide, go ahead. Not only that, then next time the brain will tell you, bring, where is the cigarette? Bring. So that's why now this is a clear indication people already become addict. So that means the addicted part of the brain is now taking control. The natural brain has stopped functioning. The headquarters has stopped functioning. So how dangerous it is. Then on a bigger, larger scale, we are all kind of addicted to negative emotions. Anger, we are addicted. Attachment, we are addicted. Hatred, we are addicted. It's only kind of difference is only in intensity, but we are all addicted in all kinds of negative emotions. So you can yourself figure out how destructive it will be. Right? So therefore, these Buddhist teachings are helping us to do away with those addictions, do away with those negative tendencies and negative habits. So very, very important. So therefore, the instruction about how to associate with others, to this question, Atish answers by saying that you should not try to seek, genuine friendship in one day, or you should not just go around flattering the people, those people who are in, who are leaders or who are in higher circles. In other words, he's saying, don't be fickle. I had difficulty finding the right English word, but something like don't be fickle. That fickle means people who, when you for the first time you meet, look so nice and he will be very friendly. Then if you just stick to that person, after 1 or 2 days, that person will reveal its true nature. right? So don't do that. Don't do that. Now, so the best security for that, for not doing that, is you should have this sense of shame and sense of concern for others. Sense of shame means that you should recognize your potential, your importance. For example, if you're about to do something negative, you can say, okay, I'm a monk, I can't do this. Or I'm a Tibetan, I can't do this. I'm an American, I can't do this. I belong to a good family, I can't do this. I have done my PhD, I can't do this. Whatever, 100,000 reasons are there. You take cognizance of your good qualities, and because of that, you should say, I can't do this negative, destructive things. That's called sense of shame concerning your own qualities. Then sense of concern for others. That means if I do this, what will my teacher say? What will my parents say? Things like that. So there are differences. Anyway, the sense of concern, Mosa Yoba, the Te Yoba. Nagarjuna in his precious garland clearly says that this world is sustained by two qualities. If you have sense of shame and sense of concern for others, the world can be sustained. If that sense of concern for others, sense of shame is not there, then the world cannot be sustained. Right? So this is very important. So these are the most important ornaments to wear, having sense of concern and sense of shame. Right? So that's the instruction. And then again, a question is asked by saying that as a foundation for developing all qualities, which one is important? Faith or to be a good person in general? Very important. To have faith or to be a good person in general. Atisha answers by saying that both are important. Then again, the question is asked by saying that no. I'm asking this question in terms of associating with other people. When you associate with other people, which one is more important, faith or to be generally a good person? Then he says, then the answer is, Atisha says, in general, to be a good person is important. But in order to lead, in order to induce positive qualities, faith is important because you have faith. Faith is said to be the precursor to all other good qualities. People who have no faith, it is impossible or very difficult to cultivate any virtuous practices. Just like a burnt seed, from a burnt seed, you cannot expect green sprouts or seedlings. So similarly, a person without faith, you cannot expect development of good qualities. Now, faith, of course, there are so many different types, which we discussed earlier also, but for the sake of revision, if I mention briefly, faith here primarily refers to the faith that is explained in the Mahayana teaching, which means faith based on reason. We're not talking about blind faith, right? There is actually no room for blind faith in the Buddhist teaching. Faith based on reason, that's very important. Because faith basically means clarity of conscience, clarity of your mind, right? When your mind is completely clear, then you become receptive. Then you receive the blessings of the Lama, right? If you don't have that clarity of the mind, that feeling of closeness, for example, to His Holiness Dalai Lama, His Holiness may be sitting next to you, but if you don't have this open-hearted receptivity and purity and cleanliness, you won't get the blessing, right? When your heart is open, and that's why in some texts it says the faith, that again, another text speaks of three types of faith, which is one is called clear faith. Clear faith means, as I mentioned, your mind should be completely clear. And that example the master gives is just like a lustful person seeing a beautiful woman, or a lustful woman seeing a handsome person. When you see that, oh, nice, your mind becomes so clear and want to like hug that person, touch that person, Just like another example that I can give is just like a person who is dying of thirst, looking for water. And scientifically it is said, your mind makes it close when you are in need of somebody, So in the scientific explanation, it said that if you put a glass of water on a table, then at a distance you put two people, one who is extremely thirsty, another one is not thirsty at all. Then you let these two people look at the glass of water on the table. Then the person who is very thirsty will see that glass very close to him because of his wanting, he's dying of thirst. So that kind of clarity, the wish to have, must be there. Clear faith. Then trusting faith. Trusting faith is just like a mother, trust of a innocent little child to the mother. I mean, if you just go around and watch and observe this one, the trust that the little innocent child has to the mother is unbelievable. The child, because of his innocence and immaturity and whatever be the reason, the child thinks that my mother can solve all my problems. My mother, to that little guy, the mother is the enlightened person. Imagine. And all that the mother has is unconditional love. She may be illiterate, totally illiterate, but because of this genuine concern and genuine love, she is able to help that little child, nurture that child so successfully. Right? So successfully. Imagine, take those examples. Right? For every mother, her child is the most beautiful child, most cute child, most handsome child, irrespective of whatever be the actual physical shape or size or beauty or whatever. The beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, as we say. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Right? So therefore, in general, you should be a really good person, a reliable person. And then should also have faith. So faith. And then aspiring faith. Aspiring faith means wish to actualize Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Aspiring higher qualities, any of the higher qualities, right? And then how should one generally become a good person? Next question: how should we generally become a good person? Atisha answers this by saying that if you people act like the so-called Tibetan, great persons or leaders are acting, then you can never be generally a good person. So today we can say some of the politicians or so-called great leaders who are just puffed up with arrogance, right? Have no compassion, things like this. So if you act like this so-called great people, you can never be a good person. Then he explains this by saying that the so-called great person or leader may have some academic qualities, knowledge of reading, writing, and things like that. But on top of those qualities, if that person also is devoid of arrogance and treats everybody, the higher, the middle, and the low, then you become a good person. Right? So therefore, you should not act like those great leaders, so-called great leaders, but to be a good person, irrespective of your academic achievement, your name, your fame, your material, accumulation, whatever you have, the more you have, the more you should become humble. I mean, there can be so many examples of good people, like at least I have observed His Holiness the Dalai Lama at close range. When he comes to give the teaching, to the crowd, you've observed how he is coming. He's not coming there with his head highly raised and then not like that. But he just comes with the bowed head and greeting everybody. The humility, sense of humbleness, humility is there, right? For others, whenever they have that power, then they get completely drunk, right? Power corrupts a person, and absolute power corrupts the person absolutely, as we have that saying, right? So therefore, whatever academic achievements or other qualities you may have, you should never become arrogant, and you should actually become a kind of somebody who is subservient to all those people, the high ones, the middle ones, and low ones. The reason is because all these people, rich or poor, high or low, are actually same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Same in having different problems. The lower ones have the problem of material, poverty. The higher ones are deprived of name, fame. They look for name and fame. They don't get it. They compete with others. They don't get success. So they have their own emotional and mental, lot of emotional and mental problem, right? So therefore, he says, so to all these people, you should treat them with a smile on your face and help those people, whatever they say, until and unless what they are saying is improper. If it is improper, then of course you should not do it. Otherwise, with a smile, support them. So therefore, you should have that kind of faith in your mind, which will help you uplift your spirit. Right? And this actually the question is asked by Domdoma by saying that what do you mean by developing a faith which becomes a precursor to all other positive qualities? And this is answered by saying that means you should have such a way of life, positive way of life, and such a strong faith that the clear indication that you have a strong faith is that whenever you see some special, holy places or holy objects or holy person, tears should flow from your ear, from your eyes, and then the hairs on your body should rise up and develop rejoice instead of competition. So therefore, when you listen to the teaching also, that kind of motivation is needed. When we listen to the teaching also, there are many ways of listening to the teaching. One is how good the teacher is. Second is whether that teacher has something new to say which you have not heard before. Or that by hearing and listening to this teaching and getting some wisdom and knowledge, I will start my own consultancy firm and start collecting money. Many people do that. Once I was visiting America, and there was a small dinner party. So, and there was this journalist who asked me a lot of questions. Then I answered his questions, and he was so delighted. And he said, "Oh my God, such a good answer! If you stay here in America, you will become billionaire overnight. You can instruct all the CEOs and companies and things." so, so, so the way people think is always, different, depending upon your upbringing, right? Yeah. So you should have that aspiration, that expectation from the holy objects, and then pray that I constantly meet such opportunity, such teacher like His Holiness Dalai Lama, things like that, right? Then he again asks a question by saying, okay, that is good for me, but my faith, how could my faith help other people's, mind towards virtuous practices? The answer is because you are generally a very reliable, good person, then when you lead that such kind of noble life, then people will immediately follow you. I was this morning reading a text which said that don't follow people who teach. So see, now I'm losing my student. Shall I explain the next line or not? because I'm going to lose my students. So the teaching says, don't follow those people who teach, but follow those people who practice. Meaning that practice is so difficult. Teaching is not easy, but not so difficult. But practice, and also teaching based on your own practice, your own experience, is not easy, right? So therefore, he's saying that if you are somebody who is not only talking but who is living the life of those spiritual advices, then people are like monkeys, you know. They're looking at us. They're imitating all the time, whether they say anything or not, but they are imbibing the so-called your vibration, right? So they follow. So many a times people follow you not in accordance with what you taught. Sometimes people look stupid, but they are also clever, you know. They're very clever. I've been observing this very carefully these days. So people, I thought, oh, they are not only clever in, you know, looking after their day-to-day needs, but also they're looking in they're good in many other things, you know. But if you just talk and don't live your life, people say, they'll not follow you, you see. Right, right. But even without you're not saying anything, if you're doing something, for example, practicing charity, expressing love and compassion on a daily basis, on a regular basis, you are doing it, I'm definite that number of people will follow you, number of people will come to, you know, extend their helping hand and support you. So doing is very, very important. And I've been telling this to my Tibetan friends, especially the younger generation, that we need to be active, right? Okay. So he gives example, just like if the mother cries, the child will cry without any reason, because the child has that trust to the mother. So similarly, if you're somebody who is always doing good things, people are observing that, and so they will follow you, just like the child following the mother. So automatically they will cultivate faith. Just as when we see His Holiness the Dalai Lama, at least at that moment, we all develop some kind of faith and a strong emotion, a strong feeling, because we are able to see His Holiness is, you know, radiating with love and radiating with compassion and things like that, right? So therefore, it is important when you associate with others, or when you are, you know, listening to a teaching, or want to follow a teacher, or want to help student, whatever. In all those situations, whether you want a student, whether you want, you know, friends, whether you are looking for teachers, so forth, you should examine their qualities, how good they are as a person, as an ordinary person, how good they are is the most important thing. If that person is trustworthy, calm, and not money-minded, things like that, you can trust. You can trust that person, right? So therefore, and then Atisha says, in general, the problem with us is that we are in general influenced by negative emotions. So therefore, even though we are supposed to have been born as a human being, but internally in your mind, you don't have this internal decoration and ornament of sense of shame, sense of concern, and things, and reliability, and things like that. And then on top of that, you have this anger and resentment. Uh, so if you become rough and tough, just like wearing a new leather shoes. New leather shoes means not tanned leather shoes, but untanned leather shoes. If you wear one, it will be so tough you can't, you know, put your feet inside it, right? So forget about, under such a situation, forget about doing sublime Dharma practice. You will not even be able to lead a good human way of life. So for such a people, they will have a lot of enemies, poverty, and all kind of negative experiences. So for your own goodness, for your own betterment, you need to be a good person, a reliable person. And that reliability, that quality of being good must be maintained in all situations. We should make a commitment like that. It's not that I will do this practice when in the presence of good teachers or in holy places, but I will not practice this when I go to some other place and things like that. No, because wherever you go, it's still samsara. Still, it is full of negative emotions, I've seen many, many people from the Tibetan society and from other societies also, many people dying to go to America, dying to go to Europe and things like that. And they do so many stupid things to be able to go there, right? Illegally go there, They're doing so many stupid things. But once they reach there, they can see the same problem. And I've seen a number of them who said, I made a big mistake. I once met one friend, but different nationality. So we were just chatting at the airport, German airport. Then he said, Guruji, on such and such date and year, I made the greatest mistake in my life. I said, what happened? What did you do? He said, I moved to this country, this or that country. I don't want to name this country. So he must have moved there with great excitement, like many of us do. But once you reach there, it's not suitable, sir. So don't expect all your problems will go away if you go to a different country and have money and things like that. Of course, I understand in some dire situation, people really have nothing in their own country. So for food and things like that, I understand that. But in general, the real solution for problems will not be found just by changing places. Okay. Right. So therefore, generally speaking, if you become a reliable good person, whatever you do will be beautiful. Whatever you do will be beautiful. The way you speak will be beautiful. The way you do things will be beautiful. Your face will also become radiant, things like that. Inner beauty is reflected in the external activities. Right? So therefore, it is important to meditate on practice of patience, because we are living in samsara, surrounded by all kind of difficult situations, ups and downs in life. So during such hardships and difficulties, if you don't have the practice of patience, then all your virtuous practices will be destroyed. So if you, in this life, if you meditate on patience, then in the future lives, it's guaranteed that you will obtain good life, handsome looking men or beautiful looking women. To give an example, for example, in this very life, forget about next life, in this very beautiful life, if you are patient, look at the face of a person who is patient. There is a boldness, there is a radiancy, there is calmness, therefore looking handsome, looking beautiful. Then look at the face of the person who is impatient and who is angry. The grimaces, as we discussed earlier, you see, the scowl and the grimaces. And you age before it is time to age. You get sick before it is time to get sick. And you die before it is time to die because of anger, jealousy, and negative emotions. So in other words, we need to understand this clearly, that the whole world, Gadan, Nadan, Chive, love to be Sibe Sol in Dover Doverisha. There is a beautiful Tibetan prayer which says, this samsara, this ocean of samsara is agitated, it's turbulent through aging, sickness, death, and so forth, turbulent. And plus, the countless stupid things that we do because we let our emotions run wild. Unbridled negative emotions run wild. So despite continuous so-called material development, people are unhappy. People are suffering from depression. People are suffering from loneliness. So this are clearly telling you that unless you mend your ways, unless you change your way of thinking, change your attitude, no permanent solution can come from anywhere. Think about moving on the earth, so from the earth, think about moving to the moon or some other planet. So what? Same person with the same negative emotion moving to another planet, bringing the same problem there. You know, this reminded me a story of a very famous Sikh teacher, Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak once visited one village. That village is said to be, a village with full of people who are very united and very loving and very kind. So Guru Nanak visited that village, and then in his sermon, at the end of his sermon, he said, "Now, you people should not continue to stay here. You should all get separated and go to many other villages and many other places. Normally, because this village is so good, people are so united, you must stay here. You might think like that. But Guru Nanak said, no, 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 you should all go get dispersed." Then he visited another village where people were full of ruffians, rocks, fighting and stealing and all sort of stupid things doing. Then Guru Nanak, at the end of his sermon, he said, "You people must not go to any other place. You must all stay here." So somebody who was attending him, he was surprised and asked, "Why did you give such an advice? The advice should be actually the other way around." Then Guru Nanak said, "No, no, no. If these ruffians, these rocks, if they go to other places, they'll make the same problem," which is true, right? Right. So therefore, my point is, so long as you have these negative emotions within you, wherever you go, however rich you might become, the problem will always be there. Problem will always be there. And once you have this kind of integrity, sense of love, sense of compassion, and more importantly, a proper understanding of the reality of life, the reality of cycle of existence, once you have a very penetrative insight about the way things are, understanding of the law of nature, then suffering comes. You will be able to accept it. Yes, it is something that has to come. It has come. It's not shocking, not something unexpected. When happiness comes also, yes, it's part of the deal, part of the packet, right? Many people, because we don't have that understanding, that knowledge, when something unfortunate comes, they start thinking, this is something, unthinkable to me. Why me? Why me? So when such situations, happen, you should say, why not me? Don't say why me, but why not me? If it's happening to everybody, death happens to everybody, aging happens to everybody, then why not me? Accept it. Now, when you accept it, many people start thinking, what is the meaning of life? We are going to die, so I commit suicide. As if you have found the solution very quickly, no? No. So there you have to have this larger perspective, larger scheme of things. If you are able to perceive this larger perspective, larger scheme of things, if you are able to understand that, then even the so-called sufferings and challenges are not necessarily bad, not necessarily negative. Believe me, the so-called negative experiences many times becomes your most useful teacher. The ordinary teacher, however great they may be, when you are physically well, you have no material, difficulty, then listening to a teaching, sitting on a comfortable seat, sipping a cup of tea, it's all wonderful. Oh, I listened to His Holiness teaching, it's wonderful. The teaching was so good, yeah, it's very good. But how much their teaching will sink in your mind is questionable. But if you get infected by the COVID-19 and put in the ICU, intensive care unit, then luckily you escape dying. Then the lesson that you've learned, at least for someday, will be very, very powerful. Then you will start appreciating life. Thank God, right? So therefore, Shantideva said, suffering is introduction to happiness. Therefore, I try to use, instead of the word suffering, I try to use word challenges. Unless you experience challenges, unless you face hardships, you will never be able to understand the reality of life. So people who have not faced the reality of life, they are unable to tolerate anything. And I think His Holiness told me that once he mentioned that people who had seen the world wars, those generations are much more friendly, much more tolerant, and people who have never seen many of these world wars and other, unfortunate things, they are very impatient, very angry, very unfriendly, things like that. So that's why if you look at a young man and an elderly person, the elderly person, especially like above 60, 70, they speak slowly, they are more humble because they have learned life's lesson that patience works, compassion works, love works, not fighting. They've learned that. So they are able to live together with family members who are always scolding them and right. So therefore, my point is that, as I repeatedly mentioned earlier, that the real enemy that must be fought with, that must be eliminated, that must be kicked out, is not there outside, but inside. Within us, the negative emotions, anger, jealousy, hatred, many other 100,000 negative emotions are there within us. Recognize them, despise them, and then gradually, possibly remove them. That is called Dharma practice. Right? So therefore, when you associate with others, don't be fickle. Once you don't make friendship with anybody easily. Don't trust anybody easily, although you don't have to show hatred or anger and things like that, but don't be fickle. Spend time. Spend time. And we don't do that. We just judge by the facial beauty, you see. Then you get quickly married. She's so beautiful. He's so handsome. You quickly get married. Just like a dog meeting a piece of meat. And then after a very short while, divorce. The divorce rate is increasing these days because we don't examine other people, you see. The marriage of two people is basically the marriage of the mind of two people, not body of two people. It's a spiritual union. You know much better than me, so I should not elaborate on this. Many of you know much better than me. Anyway, that's my feeling. Okay, right? Because so if you're fickle and not trustworthy and things like that, then you make friendship today and tomorrow that person will become your enemy. I personally seen such people. Unfortunately, people's nature are different. Some people are like that. And then they'll go to another person, make friend, and then after 3 days, another person, things like that. That's the problem. That's in a way that is the modern problem. In the modern society, we have this tendency of trying to get happiness by changing the external furnitures. This house is not so good, I change my house. And then these furnitures are not so good, I change the furniture. So much so that this wife didn't work, so I changed my wife, get a new wife. And then, with the first wife, you say, oh, I made a mistake, I did not really think carefully. So she's not good. The next one will be really good. So you get the next wife. Then again, you get the same problem. Again, you will never see how much you are contributing to that. You will again blame that second wife, that she is not the right person. So the third one will be the one. So you keep on changing your furniture, you keep on changing your husband, keep on changing your wife. But as I said, it's like changing places, So long as you go with your negative emotions, demands, how can you get happiness? You need to get adjusted with the place, with the people, with understanding, with unity, things like that. So therefore, negative emotions, which is there within oneself, is the number one enemy. Oh yeah, that is correct. So Atisha says that today you're like a person who is carrying a very heavy load and walking in a almost like endless stretch of desert. If you're walking and no place to rest, then what would you do? At least you will, in Tibetan we say sikba. You will just move and then make sure that the the burden or the load you're carrying is not lopsided, and you feel a little bit comfortable. So like that, today is, Adisha says, now is the time to really, set right the burden that you're carrying and reach the destination. So without doing that, if you say, oh, now it's so tiring, and you just sit there, you will never be able to cross that endless stretch of the plain or the desert, right? So therefore, now is the time, even if you're carrying that burden, now is the time to set right that load, that burden, and reach the destination, cross that plane of samsara. So therefore, you need to take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha to start with. And then secondly, you need to know the great many qualities of nirvana, liberation, or Buddhahood, and great many defects of the samsara. It is by understanding the good points and the bad points that there is a much likelihood of your moving towards the good. Without understanding, without conviction, as Aryadeva in his 400 verses said, just he said that in Ayadeva's 400 verses, he said that somebody who is not fed up with this samsara, somebody who is not fed up with samsara, how could that person develop veneration or respect to nirvana? And he gives the example by saying that if you are somebody who is feeling very comfortable with your present home, you're living happily with your kids and your wife and brother, sister, and things like that, why should you think about moving to some other house? It's only when disharmony starts in the family, problems start in the family, then you think about moving to other place or even other country. So right now, for the sake of saying, we are saying, oh, samsara, samsara. But deep down, we are all saying, so far, samsara is quite good. Therefore, we are scared of death. We are scared of death. Scared of death means you don't want to die. You don't want to die means you want to live. Live where? In the samsara. Right? So this is a clear indication that deep down, as we say, home sweet home. Samsara, home sweet home. So therefore, if you really, it's not just because it is said in the text, but we should ourselves find out the the demerits, disadvantages, and faults of samsara, faults of negative emotion, and the great many qualities of nirvana, enlightenment, compassion, loving kindness. The more you are able to see the good qualities, the more you will move towards those good qualities and imbibe those good qualities. So that is the process. That is called meditation. Meditation is not, as I said, sitting in a corner, closing your eye. No. During the Buddha's time, there was a, I think I mentioned this earlier also. During the Buddha's time, there was a great meditator by the name Udarak. It is said that his one-pointed meditation is so good that he can stay in that one-pointed meditation for many, many days, perhaps months on end, without eating food and anything, oblivious of everything. So much so that his hair grew so long that it touched the ground. The cave, which was infested with rats, started chewing off the ends of the hair, still oblivious. His concentration was so good. But after a while, when he got up from that one-pointed meditation and saw that the ends of his hair has been chopped off by the cat, he grew mad. Meaning he grew very angry towards the rat who chopped away the ends of his hair. Meaning that even if you have very strong one-pointed meditation, if you don't have this wisdom that cuts the root of the ignorance, negative emotions will come back. So that's why I'm saying that meditation doesn't mean feel good practice, that you sit there looking good, observing certain postures, remain a little bit oblivious of the ordinary happenings. And then you say, wow, the meditation is so good, I've mentioned this many times, but for the sake of almost like a joke, I'll mention this again, that in many developed countries today, there are many Buddhist centers. So people, especially in the more developed countries, they work very hard the whole day. Then in the evening, after their work, they go to a meditation center and go there, listen to the talk and do some kind of meditation. Then at the end, they say, wow, the meditation was so good. But actually, I'm not necessarily everybody, but in many cases, it's like that. They say, wow, meditation is so good because they have been working very hard the whole day. Now in that Buddhist center, they got a time to rest. In some cases, to doze off. So it's relaxing. But that's not the purpose of meditation. I'm not jealous of you. You're taking rest. but that's not purpose of meditation. Purpose of meditation is not just to give you a temporary repose or rest, but to help you identify the negative emotions, lessen the negative emotions, do away with the negative emotions. If that is happening, then your practice is hitting the target. If that is not happening, you're just wasting your time. Right? So even the so-called meditation is discouraged in many texts if it is not properly done. Because that could again become another worldly activity. Of late, I've been saying like wearing a monk's robe is another way of spending life. There are many ways of spending life, right? Some wear military uniform and get their livelihood. Some become monk and wear this and get their livelihood. So this is another form of livelihood, earning the livelihood. Unless we are able to transform the internal mind, the external change will not be very effective for the long run, right? So therefore, the text, the main points of the text is explained in the root text itself, which says, be without flattery, be without flattery. That means never flatter other people. You will recall that flattery is one of the five ways of earning wrong livelihood. Flattery, maska marna, right? Flattery. Or rush for new friendship. We already, not to be fickle, we explained this. But always be stable and firm, reliable. Become a reliable friend. Become a friend of all sentient beings. I mean, that is what is explained in the text. Become a friend of all sentient beings. Buddha is a friend of all sentient beings. So friend of all sentient beings doesn't mean that he should always go with all sentient beings to a restaurant, right? Or a picnic. Friend of sentient being means mentally connected, mentally thinking about their well-being, practically doing whatever is beneficial to them, whether you know them or not know them. That's the important thing. Ordinarily, we are kind to somebody so long as that person is kind to you. As I mentioned earlier, I love you so long as you love me. That's not genuine love. That's not genuine friendship. It is business friendship. It is business love, right? So without expecting anything, because of the fact that those other people are exactly like you, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering, despite that people have a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties, therefore I should lighten their burden. I should not become a burden to them. That should be the approach. So if you're able to bring smile on the face of even 1%, 2% in a day, I mean, it's amazing. If you bring tears in the eye of 1 or 2%, that's stupid, that's wrong, right? So give up despising others, as we already discussed. However great your knowledge, your wealth, and so forth, never look down upon other people. If you're a Buddhist, then the Buddha's text says every, not only human being, all sentient beings have Buddha nature. All sentient beings are the children of the Buddha. In the beginning of Madhyamika Avatara, entering the middle way, there is a stanza which says that the homage should be paid to the uh, young moon, not the fully developed moon, because it is the young moon which will gradually become the full moon. It is the ordinary sentient beings who will become bodhisattvas, who will become Buddhas, right? Just as you cherish the seed when you plant something, so similarly you cherish and respect this Buddha seeds, sentient beings who have the Buddha nature. So give up despising others and remain with respect. I recall, and in fact, I can never forget this teaching from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who once said that from one perspective, we should pay respect, we should bow down to the earthworms. Earthworms or any other wriggling insects, they look very vulnerable and very helpless, right? But they're not doing any harm to anybody. In the case of earthworm, the wriggling earthworm, which is really looking very helpless, but at least, now there are earthworm farms where they produce all these fertile soils. I mean, even an earthworm can be so productive, right? So they're not doing any harm. Contrarily, if you look at the so-called intelligent human beings, how much harm we are doing to animals, to other people, to the planet, and so forth. So therefore, remain with respect. When instructing others, have compassion and benevolent mind when teaching others or in all your human activities. The key thing that I have been repeatedly saying is compassion. If you have one quality, as the sutra says, if you have one quality in the palm of your hand, you have all the qualities in the palm of your hand. And what is that quality? That quality is great compassion. Right? So therefore, loving kindness, compassion. As somebody, not from Buddhist teaching, but somebody said that love is something that the blind can see and the deaf can hear. It's so amazing. This called internal qualities. And I had repeatedly mentioned that this internal qualities, they will never come to an end. They're always fresh. They will never become stale. It's not like food. You keep few days and then even if you keep them in the refrigerator, it will become stale. These good qualities are not like that. These internal qualities are like really amazing. No thieves can steal it. No robbers can rob it. You don't have to deposit them in a bank. Nobody will come to you and charge for the tax or things like that. You see, it's all yours. And the more you spend it to others, the more it will become limitless. It's not like external material facilities. So with this kind of realization, we should develop these internal qualities. Okay, I overstayed a little bit. Sorry, I stop here. Thank you.
That was our own gain. Thank you. So now some questions, Geshe Lhakdor. First of all, we have Igor. Igor, you have to accept our unmute request. Yeah, great. We can hear you now. Igor, can you please check your mic? We cannot hear you, although you're unmute. Yeah. Still no. Nope.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt for a minute because I see a number of people are leaving. Laterally, it's Losha next week, and our Tibetan team and I. It's on Friday the 19th. So shall we meet or do we take a break for Losha?
I'll leave it to you. Maybe break.
Okay. So then we will meet on the 26th. Right. I'm sorry to have interrupted. I just saw 4 or 5 people leaving. Yeah. So 26th, same time, same place. Yeah. Okay, sorry. And once the questioning is over, significance of Losar after this question. Yeah. I think that will be useful for our community. And happy Losar, everyone, so I don't have to come back again. Yeah. Sorry, please carry on with the question.
Yeah.
Igor, yeah. No, still cannot hear you, Igor.
Go away.
Maybe you want to plug off your headphone and see if you, yeah. No, so sorry. No, still no.
You could send us a question.
Yeah, or maybe you can type in your question and we'll read it out. Or you can try after Natasha and Sonam. Yeah. So we'll go let Natasha ask her questions for now, if you can hear. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Natasha. You can.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Geshe. We have 3 questions as usual. The first one is how to dedicate merits to one person or to a group of persons during a pandemic.
Whether it's one person or many person, it doesn't matter. But you should, whatever virtuous practices that you've done, you should say, may the fruit of this go to this group of people or that group of people. That's it.
Okay, and the second question is, could you please explain what it means to liberate from diseases, enemies, and so on by wrathful means in the praise to Palden Lhamo that we read before reciting the mantra of Palden Lhamo? Could you please give us an example of such wrathful means or methods?
Wrathful means that, for example, if a parent has a very naughty child, And by gentle counseling, if the child is not listening, then the parents might pose as if they are very angry and physically even like give some slaps or things like that. But internally they have concern, they have love, they have compassion. But externally, in order to mend the ways of the child, they will, express a little bit wrathfully or angrily. So I think similar is the way. Similar is the way. There's one thing. Number two, among the followers, there are so many people with different mental dispositions. Some people are fond of having a wrathful deity because their nature is such that when they have a wrathful deity to rely upon, they feel more secure that this wrathful deity with swords in the hands has the capacity to defend me, not gentle looking Avalokiteshvara and things like that. But for some people, they feel more protected with a more peaceful deity. So these different deities are not necessarily deities in that very form, staying somewhere waiting for us, but they are kind of reflection of our internal uh, emotions and also our mental dispositions. Okay.
Yes, thank you. And the third question is, can you come to an inspired faith through habit and analysis, or does it just appear at once? And are the faith based on analysis and faith based on inspiration two different kinds of faith?
There can be not just faith, but in terms of many qualities, it can be inborn also, right? For example, some child, even when they are very young, they are very fond of like trampling insects and they're not scared of insects, so they are fond of killing them. And then there are others who are, scared to death when they see an ant or things like that. So people have different habits depending upon their past life imprints. So that's one thing. So similarly, in the case of development of positive qualities like faith, and also for some people, they have great degree of inborn quality like faith. For others, it has to be nurtured by reasoning, by study, by logic, and so forth. So whatever be the case, it is important to strengthen your faith based on knowledge and understanding, not just because somebody said so, right? But then, as you rightly mentioned, that in some cases, like for example, it may have been very difficult for you to develop faith, but when you meet somebody, then you completely change on that very moment because of certain karmic connection and things like that. So that is kind of faith received through inspiration. But inspiration could also be through teaching. Okay.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Natasha. Sonam, do you have your question? Yeah. You have to unmute. Yeah, great.
Namaste, Geshe.
Namaste.
My question was answered partly towards the end of the talk in the text, but again, the same question: how the mental patterns of depression and anxiety are so stubborn that even after years, very difficult to get over them.
Yeah, difficult means not impossible.
Yeah. I think
So
not impossible.
just like washing a a cloth which have been dirt ridden for long time, फिर उसको थोड़ा रगड़ना पड़ता है. You have to work doubly hard to remove the stains, 2-3 times using the soap and other detergents and things like that. So it will take time, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible, right? But then also it's important to know in some cases, it's very interesting also. Sometimes, with slight change of situation and environment, those many kind of seemingly difficult experiences, suddenly you're able to change it. That also is possible, right? So you need to, on the one hand, work hard and also look for the opportunity also, right? Yeah. But then the main point is, if it is something that needs to be done, it has to be done, even if it is difficult. That's the point. If it's not so important, then why should we work so hard? Just leave it, you know. If we are happy with the life we have, and depression is okay, anger is okay, jealousy is okay, then go with that, you see. But the thing is that it's not okay. So the Tibetans, they have a saying, don't make friendship with okay. Okay. So the most important thing that you need to realize is mind is different from body. With the physical body, however much training you give, there's a limit to development. For example, you may be world's number one, in long jump, gold medalist in long jump, but it will never happen to you that one day you will start jumping from one mountain to another mountain. There is a limit, because the basis on which you are giving training is a material thing. It is a limit beyond which it cannot go. Now, in the case of the mind, it's not a physical thing. It's pure energy. So you can develop it to limitless state through practice. The important thing is you have to, have that sustained practice and form the positive habits. And then gradually the negative habits will fall by itself. Okay?
So Geshe, Igor, you want to try once more? No. Okay, now I'll read the question then. Yeah. So, Igor, yeah, still no. So sorry. Next time, please. Yeah. So now I'll read out the question. Gisela, Igor has written, Precious Gisela, could you please prepare us and give an introduction for the Monday's teaching from His Holiness on Changyar Ropé Doje's text, Recognizing the Mother, and the role that text has in developing faith and inner transformation in general. Thank you very, very much, Igor.
We have no time to explain in detail, but in that text, it basically says that, gives the example like talking about like knowing emptiness and interdependent origination, and gives a beautiful example by saying it's like you're having separated from your mother, separated from your brother, things like that. And then suddenly you meet them and are able to recognize them. And then you will be overjoyed. I did not recognize you, and you are my mother. Oh, so good, You hug and you sing and you dance. So that kind of content is there. It's a beautiful text, beautiful text. And in fact, there is almost like Dr. Rolwe Dorje, when he wrote this, he was basically, almost singing with joy and happiness. Okay. So it's talking about emptiness, meeting with emptiness and understanding dependent origination.
Yeah, so Gisela, thank you. And Gisela, would you like to say something on our upcoming Losar? Like
Yeah,
Mr. Malhotra had
I will
requested.
speak in my father's voice. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I remember His Holiness once I was with His Holiness at the Ganga Ghat in Varanasi, and then the new millennium started. And it's not just New Year, but new millennium. Imagine, everybody was so excited in the many countries. They were just watching the clock, ready to open their beer bottle and things like that, right? So we were at the Ganga Ghat in the evening, and His Holiness gave a short discourse, and he said, unless we change, there's nothing new. And he said, if you don't believe, then lie down tonight, put your head on the pillow and lie down and sleep. Next morning, when you wake up, then see whether you are really in the new millennium or the same situation. Same situation, you see. So therefore, if we change our perspective, then everything is new, according to Buddhism. That means anything that is conditioned is newly produced every time. momentarily newly produced. So every day is a new day, every month is a new month, every year is a new year. And therefore, every day is also a new year. So therefore, the point is that we should really be able to celebrate and be happy every day, every minute, every hour. Right? That's important. So instead of just sitting and complaining and, talking bad things about other people and making judgments, just live in the moment and sing and dance and be happy, change your mind and be happy. Life is short, enjoy it, seize the moment, see the preciousness of human life and be happy. This short journey here is to create happiness in the mind of others, not to create misery, right? So with that realization, be happy and enjoy. So I think such should be the attitude for any celebration. Okay, thank you.
So Gishla, thank you so much. And like Gishla said, all these New Year's and everything, these celebrations are often used as an excuse to have fun. But this time, Geshe-la, we promise you we'll try to make it an excuse to renew our faith, renew our dedication, and come back renewed people. Thank you. And the next session will be on February 19th, next week. So see you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Geshe-la. Thank you, everybody.